The Irwin text has an internal focus. The goal is to have you focus on examining and developing your core as a leader. The leadership challenge, on the other hand, is about specific practices. The 5 key leadership practices promote positive change. So if you're following, our focus for this course, Personal Leadership Development, is about examining, developing, and practicing. This book is about practicing. We want to begin with a few quotes within our text to create some reflection. Take note of the following slides and give them some thought. Okay, take a look at the quotes here on slide 2. The tendency is for us to think that leadership is somehow superhuman. When we think of great leadership, our minds may drift to historical figures that led great movements like Martin Luther King Jr. or Abraham Lincoln. And maybe we even think of people that are in corporate America, our CEOs or executives of big-time companies. Kouzes and Posner make the point that leadership is a process that ordinary people use when they're bringing forth the best from themselves and others. That makes leadership bigger than specific titles or positions within an organization. It makes it relevant really to all of us. So past leadership models probably took a historical or elitist perspective on leadership. You have, for instance, the trait approach to defining leadership, which was one of the first systematic approaches to understanding leadership. It was developed in the early 20th century. Leadership traits were studied to understand what made people great leaders. The theories were developed out of the trait approach. The theories that were developed out of the trait approach were known as the great men theories because they focused on identifying the innate qualities and characteristics possessed by great social, political, and military leaders. The problem with this theory was that not all leaders possessed the same traits. And, oh, by the way, not all of them were men. Leadership is looked at differently today. The current leadership model is a facilitator of processes, developing other people into team members and individual contributors who can work toward a larger vision. Clear about his or her own strengths, have appropriate mental models about working with others, and possess great interpersonal competence, also known as emotional intelligence. Kouzes and Posner take a different approach with leadership. All of us possess the potential to influence. Everyone is a leader, and it's interesting that that very statement can cause some folks some discomfort. Take a second and reflect on your thoughts. Do you believe that everyone is a leader? At the very least, you are a leader of self. To be an effective leader with others, you must first lead yourself. Even beyond that, we all have the disposition to influence others and be influenced by others. One can make the argument that you are either leading or following at any given time in your relationships on a daily basis. I love this quote here on slide 4. At the end of our days, the legacy we leave is the life we lead. You lead yourself through a 3-step process, and this process was included in the Tim Irwin text, Impact. Number 1, it's through self-examination, being open to learning who you are. Number 2 is self-awareness, learning your gifts, talents, strengths, and beliefs. And number 3 is self-regulation, understanding how all of that impacts your motives and behaviors. This is that internal process that must happen for all of us to truly understand how to have an authentic impact. This course is designed to help you take those steps in the direction of self-leadership. So Kouzes and Posner have really put their theory into action here, into words, and you can see that on slide 5. They've researched and developed a model of 5 practices of exemplary leadership. This is the practicing part of the course, the doing part. Again, Irwin's text takes us on the inward journey and has us exploring who we are and what we believe, the core. Kouzes and Posner give us a perspective on what effective leadership looks like, the practices of exemplary leadership. They have conducted research to summarize specific leadership practices that are proven in the field of leadership. Our text, Christian Reflections on the Leadership Challenge, gives us a Christian perspective on these qualities. Well-known Christian authors have weighed in on these practices. So here we are on slide 6. We start with an introduction to the practice of modeling the way. In this brief introduction of each practice, the point is made that exemplary leaders find their voice by clarifying their personal values and then expressing those values in their own style. Then they set the example by aligning their personal actions with shared values. Leaders understand how important it is to be clear about the values and motivations that drive them. Sometimes it takes a while to unearth those values. It's essential that you find your voice because values serve as the guide for your life. Clarity of values is essential to knowing which way for each of us is north, south, east, and west. Values inform your decisions about what to do and what not to do, when to say yes and when to say no, and to really understand why you make those decisions. They supply you with a moral compass by which to navigate the course of your daily life. So clarity about personal values is an essential part of modeling the way. The most powerful thing a leader can do to mobilize others is set the example by aligning personal values, personal actions with shared values. Leaders are measured by the consistency of their deeds and words, by walking the walk and talking the talk. The second practice is inspire a shared vision. Leaders inspire a shared vision. They envision the future and they enlist others in a common vision. They envision the future by imagining exciting and ennobling possibilities. A vision is a mental picture of what tomorrow could be like. It expresses our highest standards and values. A vision gives focus to human energy, and if it's to be attractive to more than an insignificant few, it must appeal to all who have a stake in it. They may sound familiar to that may sound familiar to what Irwin speaks of in the first chapter of Impact as it relates to Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain and the power of purpose. Chamberlain's impact was tied directly to the soldier's response to who he was as a person. Followers want to know that the aim toward which they move is important and meaningful. At the beginning, what leaders often have is a theme. They have concerns, desires, hypotheses, propositions, arguments, hopes, and dreams, core concepts around which they organize their aspirations and actions. Leaders begin the process of envisioning the future by discovering their themes. Finding your vision, like finding your voice, is a process of self-exploration and self-creation. Leaders then enlist others in a common vision by appealing to a shared aspirations. Our leaders also challenge the process. They search for opportunities and they experiment and take risks. Exemplary leaders also know that they have to be willing to make some personal sacrifices in the service of a higher purpose. Exemplary leaders search for opportunities by seeking innovative ways to change, grow, and improve. They're always on the lookout for anything that lulls a group into a false sense of security, and they constantly invite and create new initiatives that can make a difference. The focus of a leader's attention is less on the routine operations and much more on the untested and untried. Leaders are always asking, what's new? What's next? What's better? Innovation is risky. New programs and projects are initially hypotheses and explorations. They are not sure things. Exemplary leaders experiment, take risks, and learn from accompanying mistakes. They encourage others to step out on the adventure into the unknown rather than play it safe. Exemplary leaders enable others to act. They foster collaboration and strengthen individuals. They foster collaboration by promoting cooperative goals and building trust. At the very heart of cooperation is trust. Leaders help create a trusting climate by the example they set and by active listening. Trusting leaders give people the freedom to innovate and take risks. They nurture openness, involvement, personal satisfaction, and the high levels of commitment to excellence. Knowing that trust is key, leaders make sure that they consider alternative viewpoints and engage people with a variety of abilities and expertise. Because they're more trusting of their groups, they're also more willing to let others exercise influence over the group's decisions. It's a reciprocal process. Trust begets trust. Your impact text will challenge you to examine how you look at others. Trust is a key in leadership, and there may be some misguided beliefs in your belief system that impact the way that you empower others. Look for some good insights in the Irwin text on this front. Leaders ultimately strengthen others by sharing power and discretion. Creating a climate in which people are involved and feel what they are doing is important is at the core of strengthening others. Exemplary leaders know that they must trust their own power in service of others, so they readily give power away instead of hoarding it for themselves. Chapter 6 of the Irwin text will outline the dangerous impact power has on leadership. And last but not least, leaders encourage the heart of each constituent to carry on. To keep hope and determination alive, exemplary leaders recognize contributions by showing appreciation for individual excellence. They love to tell the stories about the achievements of others. They make others feel like winners. Successful leaders have high expectations, both of themselves and other constituents. Their expectations are powerful because they are the frames into which people fit reality. There's ample research evidence, ample research that people act in ways that are consistent with our expectations of them. If we expect others to fail, they probably will. If we expect them to succeed, they probably will. Clear expectations also give people a target to shoot for and give leaders something against which to measure performance. Ultimately, leaders get the best from others, not by building fires under people, but by building the fire within them. Develop community, celebrate values and victories, do the work it takes to create a healthy and vibrant culture.